Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, the White House putting out a clear message that Iran would be wise to make a deal or else, and that or else could be coming soon. Also, reports that TMZ has now gotten another ransom letter just a few hours ago in the Nancy Guthrie case. And listen to what Harvey Levin, who is the head of TMZ, has to say about the contents. Here it is.
TMZ obtained another ransom note today. This is a highly sophisticated demand involving a form of crypto, not Bitcoin. Now, it is demanding roughly the same amount as the demand letter we received, shortly after the kidnapping, the $6 million demand. It's not exactly that, but it's close to that. The demand graphically describes the consequences if the demand is not met. It also involves the media, saying that the media essentially becomes a go-between, a trigger, if you will, for getting this ransom money. We have been asked not to be specific about any of that beyond what we've just said. We have forwarded this on to the FBI, and they are looking into it.
And also, Harvey Levin revealed that the FBI is now looking south of the border as well.
The search for Nancy Guthrie has gone international. We have learned the FBI has told federal Mexican law enforcement to tell various police agencies to be on the lookout for Nancy and her kidnapper. Now, our law enforcement sources are telling us that it is possible they believe that Nancy was taken across the border, but they doubt if she is across the border that it happened directly after the kidnapping. We're told that because we know now that the FBI checked cameras, Border Patrol cameras, and also other various electronic devices. We are asked not to be specific about that, and they have come up dry. There is nothing showing any movement across the border where they suspect Nancy Guthrie was in that car. Now, that said, we're told that she could have been taken at some point after the kidnapping, a day or so later or 2 days later. They just don't know. And obviously, there is a way to get across the border undetected. But right now, they have put the word out, and so far, no luck.
So far, no luck. And they're also scouring, we are told, a whole bunch of gun stores, saying, hey, do you know these individuals? Apparently, they're young men. They've had a list of like 34 of them, 34 to 40 of them, rather, and saying, hey, did they buy a gun at your gun store recently? Did they buy a holster that looks like this? What do you think? So they're clearly trying a whole bunch of leads. We also brought up the internet searches, too, as well. That is a biggie. Meantime, the other big story, of course, is Zoran Mondani, the New York City mayor. He is facing massive backlash over plans to raise the city's property taxes, trying to put the squeeze on New York, saying, hey, you got to raise taxes on the wealthy or corporations, or if not, I'm going to raise property taxes. This is what he had to say when he made the big announcement.
For those who have watched budget after budget, it is tempting to assume that we are engaging in the same dance as our predecessors. Let me assure you, nothing about this is typical. That's why our solutions won't be either. There are two paths to bridge this gap. The first is the most sustainable and the fairest path. This is the path of ending the drain on our city and raising taxes on the richest New Yorkers and the most profitable corporations. The onus for resolving this crisis should not be placed on the backs of working and middle-class New Yorkers. If we do not fix this structural imbalance, and do not heed the calls of New Yorkers to raise taxes on the wealthy, this crisis will not disappear. It will simply return, year after year, forcing harder and harsher choices each time. And if we do not go down the first path, the city will be forced down a second, more harmful path. Faced with no other choice, the city would have to exercise the only revenue lever fully within our own control. We would have to raise property taxes.
And that hit like a lead weight. There is no doubt about it. Well, even Democrats, by the way, within the city council, which I'm happy to hear, have been against it. Here is New York City Council member Linda Lee, Democrat of New York City, who says that plan is dead on arrival.
You know, we're glad that he recognized a lot of the revenues and the expenses that we knew were going to be coming in. However, the issue he brought up about potentially raising property taxes up to 9.5% is definitely concerning for us on the council side.
This came as a surprise to you today?
Yeah, it did come as a bit of a surprise, and this is going to be, it's going to have a negative impact on a lot of homeowners that we see in districts like mine in Eastern Queens.
And also, City Council Speaker Julie Menon was on with Sid Rosenberg on Sid and Friends on WABC Radio. And there, she said, no, we're going to fight this tooth and nail. How can you say this in a time of an affordability crisis? Even think about raising taxes on individual property taxes, 9.5%. And Kevin O'Leary, who, by the way, was in the great movie with John Catsimatidis, Marty Supreme. It's an awesome one. If you haven't seen it, it's nominated for a whole bunch of Oscars. But Kevin O'Leary of Shark Tank fame said, I think Mamdani is nuts. Listen to this.
This is bat poo-poo crazy, what he is proposing. And probably sometime next year, within 12 to 18 months, I will meet him in Miami and give him Real Estate Agent of the Year award. Because I'm not happy with what's happening. I can't get across the bridge anymore. I live in Miami Beach. Everybody from New York and New Jersey and Massachusetts is moving into my neighborhood. I'm pissed off. And this guy's just doing more of it. What he's proposing is beyond insane, but I love it.
You are
now,
very
I'm like everybody else. Listen, you guys live here. You're not paying your fair share.
I don't live here.
You've got to pay 110%. That's the right thing to do. Because he's not cutting spending.
No, but
he's just going to tax you into oblivion.
I found this very interesting charts, some data for you, Kevin.
Thank you.
The last time there was a tax hike on the wealthiest, this was in 2021. Take a look at this chart. You see what's going on there? The number of people making more than $200,000 in the city increased. The number of people making between $200,000 and $1 million increased. Everybody who makes a lot of money, there were more of them in New York City. Okay, so the idea
Abby,
that there was some...
True, why not increase taxes to 110% if it's so good?
Look,
let's go.
Don't get mad at me.
I'm not mad. I'm excited about it.
I'm just
love
asking you...
Because I want you to pay, not me.
I'm asking you, is there really proof of the brain drain that you say,
it's
the money drain?
England in the late 60s.
Okay.
It's called
So
France
then why are there
80s.
more multimillionaires in New York now than the last time they raised
taxes? But
listen, I don't think they're paying their fair share.
I have lived in South Florida for 46 years, and there is no doubt that we are seeing an exodus of very, very wealthy people, billionaires, from California and from New York into South Florida. In Florida, there are no state taxes. Every day I open up the news and there's a new real estate record that has been broken in home sales because Larry Page is moving down and he just bought a place for $100 and some million. Zuckerberg's moving down. So the bottom line is this. When you put a hike on taxes on just the very wealthy, you run the risk of those very wealthy not paying it because they will find a way to have a loophole and to skirt those taxes, even if it means moving to Indian Creek and, living in billionaire's bunker. They can afford to do so. The people, the people who have to live in New York to work may not be able to afford to do that. But if you've got your private plane and you've got the ability to move,
we're talking about people who make more than $1 million a year. It's not exactly, maybe in New York it's
Is that
middle
what he's going to tax people? In California, it's billionaires.
That's what the proposal The proposal is people who make more than $1 million a year. It's a very specific group of people. And I'm just asking, realistically, are we really going to see what you're claiming we're going to see. And yeah, there are
we're seeing it.
tons. There are tons of wealthy people moving from California, from all over the country to Florida,
but it's not the
and to
person
Texas,
making, it's not the person making $1 million a year, which in New York is not as much as it sounds in other places.
So
it's the person making $50 million a year.
Exactly.
That's moving.
Exactly. So people making $50 million a year are moving, but many other people who are making much less than that, but still much more than middle class people, are probably not moving.
I would say that's not a lot of money. Some of the figures they threw out there for New York, other ones are obviously significant. But regardless, what a ridiculous argument at a time where things are through the roof cost-wise. So many problems with New York. They can't even clear the snow. And they think they're going to be able to get by with a massive property increase. That is ridiculous because you know darn well Kathy Hochul's not going to want to raise taxes, especially before the election in November. So one of the new reports coming out is saying that Mondani is proposing cutting the NYPD budget. Yeah, you can't make it up. Canceling 5,000 new officer hires, which Eric Adams had planned before he left. He said, okay, there'll be an increase of X 100 at this time, 2,500 another time, and then increase it up and up. Because obviously you need more officers. They're already at a deficit. And yet there is serious consideration from Mondani that he will cut the NYPD budget, at least not have any new hires. And that may be a way for him to save some money. So maybe then he can send social workers there instead. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Linda in New Jersey on line 1. Go ahead, Linda.
Hi, Rita. I would like to say in a recent Mondani speech, he was gargling the call to prayer like Tarzan in Arabic. And then he said, welcome the stranger, have faith, and the government will pay for it. Really? And then, but, you know, we've had enough strangers, and they only cause trouble. We have to stop the sanctuary cities.
Yeah, and you know what? I am so happy you brought up the whole sanctuary city thing, because in the middle of this, where he's actually thinking of not doing these new hires for NYPD, he wants to also add $1.2 billion with a B to help migrants. I mean, is this nuts, Linda, or what?
It's absolutely nuts. He's going to milk the cow to death.
Well, he's going to send us all out to pasture if that's what happens. Linda, we're going to be in the pasture eating grass because we're not going to have anything left after this guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really scary. Linda, thank you very much. You're terrific. Always great to hear from you. Let's go to Keith in Ohio. Keith, your thoughts tonight on line 2. Your thoughts. What do you think?
Hi, Rita. How you doing? I haven't had a chance to call you in a while because a bunch of different times I've been busy.
Well, I'm glad you found the time tonight. I always love hearing from you. Go ahead, Keith.
Okay. I've heard so much craziness on different radio stations, TV stations, etc., about this Iranian situation. It's a joke. First of all, if you attack Iran, right to begin with, you go in with overwhelming force. Okay?
Right.
You attack them with B-1s, B-2s, B-52s, Moab bombs, daisy cutter bombs, and bunker buster bombs, and take out their missile facilities, their chemical weapons depots, and their uranium storage and processing facilities. You go in with that stuff first, okay? And then, after that, if they haven't cried uncle yet, you go after the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and then you go after, for instance, the legislature building, the presidential palace, and maybe the bunker where the Mullah Imam Ayatollah Khamenei lives, with maybe a Moab bomb or a daisy cutter bomb.
Now, okay? Keith, by the way, Keith, hang on one sec, because you gave some great info. First of all, are you a military guy, former military guy?
My father was.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. No, wonderful. That's great. So I agree. We will go in with overwhelming force now, and I don't think it's just going to be U.S. might. I think you're going to obviously see Israeli might, and I think you hit it on the head. America, I think, would take the skies, and Israel would take the ground. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree. I mean, and plus, They're so hated over in that part of the world, you might have a lot of Arab countries that help out. I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah, you're right. They're not all unilaterally. There are a lot of countries that will be very thrilled to see a decimated Iran because they've been a bad actor in that part of the world for a long, long time. And you're right, Keith. It will be overwhelming. It'll be, look what happened the other time. After we hit the nuclear facilities, it was like, poof, the response that they gave. I think obviously this would be different, but the might of the U.S. military and the Israelis would be overwhelming. There is no doubt about it. Keith, great points, and thank you for your family service, too. Really appreciate it. Call again soon, Keith. It was great information. 1-800-848-9222, and we'll continue, guys, here on The Rita Cosby Show after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care. Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's continue with your calls, guys. Let's go to Liz in Florida, line 1. Liz, your thoughts tonight?
Hi, Rita. I want to talk about Iran, but I want to just ask you, I did not know there's a way to get over the border undetected. That's concerning. And I have a question from Amdani.
Well, I mean, there are ways to get back and forth. By the way, obviously the border is much more secure, certainly, than it was under Joe Biden. But you can always, there's always ways to sneak somebody out, especially, sadly, if they're incapacitated. Who knows? You put them in the trunk of a car or, there's a lot of covert routes. It's a big, big border. Let's put it that way, Liz. But go ahead.
That's true. Okay, question from Donnie. Are you going to increase your parents' property tax as well? So to everybody out there, I'm a real estate broker, and everybody's coming to Florida. And if you want to move to Florida, Rita, you can do your job remotely. I'll help you find something beautiful.
Liz, thank you very much. Only if you and I can hang out, because I have high standards, and only if you and I can hang out. It's interesting. I just played the clip from Kevin O'Leary, and he essentially has said that Mamdani has just become the best real estate broker for Florida ever, because he is driving people away from New York like never, ever before. And to sit there and talk about increasing property, I mean, it's insane. And to reduce NYPD, what do you make of that, Liz?
Oh, it's. I think he's doing this on purpose. I think he wants everybody out of the city.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah. By the way, I'll give him an A+ at that. I'll give him an A+ for driving people out. A++.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
By the time I hit my 50s, I'd learned a few things, like how family is precious. Work can always wait. And 99% of people over 50 already have the virus that causes shingles. Not everyone at risk will develop it, but I did. The painful, blistering rash disrupted my life for weeks. Don't learn about your shingles risk the hard way. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today. Sponsored by GSK.
Rita Cosby is on.
And just coming out, this is interesting, from the Pima County Sheriff's Office there in Arizona, tied to the Nancy Guthrie case. The Sheriff's Department putting out a statement that investigators are currently analyzing biological evidence found at Nancy Guthrie's home, and that DNA profiles are under lab analysis. Apparently, a whole bunch of different profiles and related information have come about. It's unclear if this is new. They did another recent sweep of the home, so it's unclear if this is an old one being tested that they found, several days ago or a week or two ago, or a brand new one. But we do know that they're looking at it in all the various databases, and that they are finding that the DNA is not that of Nancy Guthrie. Obviously, you would imagine it depends where it was also located. Was it located near the bed? Was it located where they believe she was taken from at that moment? A significant location, not just any location, because it could be a family member, a friend, or something like that. So very interesting, and we will, of course, keep you posted. Meantime, we know that they are going around talking to different gun shops in the Tucson area in Arizona. We also know, by the way, that they're talking to officials on both sides of the border. They're talking to folks down south in Mexico, too, to look out for Nancy Guthrie. I would imagine they've been doing that all along, just because Tucson's about an hour away. And here is, by the way, one of the gun shop owners who says that he got a visit from the FBI, and listen to what he said.
He had given me a paper list of people that had pictures and names on it. And he wanted to know if I could help him pull up in my system if any of these people have purchased a gun in the last year.
Very important. So they're clearly still trying a whole bunch of different paths. Also trying to locate that backpack. They're going through individual purchases at Walmart's. That's a voluminous task. Also trying to see, did somebody buy the ski mask? Did somebody buy a whole bunch of those pieces? Can they connect the dots? And also, in the middle of all this, of course, President Trump is following this case very closely. He's also continuing a lot of business. Tomorrow, he's got his Board of Peace meeting. That's going to be interesting, because he says he's gotten about a $5 billion investment for the rebuilding of Gaza. That's a huge deal, $5 billion with a B. So it'll be interesting to hear what happens at that Board of Peace meeting. Who's part of it? We know that a number of different countries have said they are in, because they want to see a revitalized Middle East. And maybe that's also why all these steps towards Iran are coming at the perfect time. President Trump, it's like he is playing chess. He's looking at this piece. He's looking at this piece, where it's the next move. And no doubt, looking at the Board of Peace and all the support he has there, while they are trying to figure out what to do with Iran and putting lots of firepower in the region. But today he also celebrated Black History Month. And there were so many different African Americans and others at the White House. It was really actually a very powerful event. I was watching quite a bit of it. And one of the most moving moments, and I wanted to share that with all of you, was this woman who got up there. She lost her grandson to violence. She said because of drugs, because of the community, she lost her grandson, her precious grandson. But she said now President Trump has given her and so many minority communities hope. And she also, boy, was probably one of the biggest defenders of President Trump I have ever heard. This grandmother was on fire at the White House. Take a listen to what she said, speaking with President Trump right by her side.
One thing I like about him, he keeps it real, just like Grandma. I appreciate that because I can trust him because he tells exactly how he feels and what he thinks. Thank God for this president. I am filled, my cup runneth over. Because he allowed his constituents, his people to come to my house to interview me, to talk about the murder of my grandson. It seemed like nobody cared. I'm an advocate for murder. I marched. I rallied. I pulled out other families in the District of Columbia that had murders and did not have answers. Ooh. We marched and we rallied, and nobody heard me, Democrats. Get mad at me. Until this Republican sent his constituents, his people out there to interview me in my home. Have you ever heard of a thing? Then they invited me twice before Congress to testify for the beautiful bill that's going to change crime in the district. If you kill somebody, okay, you take a life, you do life. Just that simple. If you do a harsh crime, you do harsh time. Just that simple. And then we need National Guard, and which we did years ago. He brought it on. I love him. I don't want to hear nothing you got to say about that racist stuff. And don't be looking at me on the news, hating on me because I'm standing up for somebody that deserves to be standing up for. Get off the man's back. Let him do his job. He's doing the right thing. Back up off of him. And Grandma said it.
That was one feisty grandma. You should have seen her. And the crowd went crazy. I would imagine President Trump's going to have her at some other events because she was on fire. Meantime, a lot of people are shocked that Mayor Mondani may want to get rid of a whole bunch of NYPD. He is trying to solve what he says is the budget crisis that he says he inherited. But yet he wants to spend $1.2 billion more for migrants. And he still wants to continue his free busing and his free this and his free that. There's a new editorial that just came out, by the way, in the New York Post, and it says Mondani wants Minneapolis everywhere with his Sanctuary Plus edicts. That is a perfect editorial from the New York Post. Let's go to Pete in Staten Island, line 3. Go ahead, Pete, your thoughts tonight.
Hi, Rita. First of all, we'll go with this mayor. He could keep all the police on. We need the police. The police are our only line of defense. Now, he could get rid of some of this fat. Not for nothing. My wife worked 48 years for the city of New York, but that's nothing. My wife worked with people that I am 70 that started working in 1955. Now, the pension is more than what they make. Now, you could retire and make room room for a younger person come in with a lesser salary than to have some of these people that are in their 80s and 90s that are working for municipal credit. That's why municipal union, DC 37 and all of them. These people, now a word out to them. If this guy bankrupts the city, which he's about to do, their pensions will be cut in half, and even worse than half, to a third for all the 70, 80 years that they're working.
By the way, Pete, you're right. I did worry about that too. You're right and I'm talking about the effects on pension of these people. What about making better priorities too, Pete? I mean, what about getting rid of some of his DEI? I don't hear him cutting back on a whole bunch of the. What about cutting back? Let's be honest. What about cutting back on some of the housing of migrants, some of the 4-star, 5-star food that they were getting at hotels? What about cutting back on that, Pete, right?
100%. And then the other thing now with that lady that's missing, I would check the John and Jane Does. When I was in a nursing home 2 years ago, there were people in there that I ran into that were down as John Does and Jane Does. One gentleman.
Now, but wait. Hold on, Pete, though. Weren't those people that I would assume that wandered away or something like that? I mean, we don't hear any sign of dementia with this woman.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say if she was kidnapped. First of all, that guy at the doorbell counter, I am left-handed. I know how to use arms and stuff. I seen the way the gun was on his belt. That's a lefty guy. And the way he was covering up with the leaves with his right hand, very awkward. That I would say 90%, I'm sure, that's a left-handed guy. I had to learn to do everything right-handed because in the theater, if I tied a knot left-handed, I got scolded. I mean, they felt that it's going to slip and everything. So I had to learn how to do that. But I seen the way he had his hand by the belt. First of all, I would never tuck a gun in the front of my pants like that with a holster or anything because I'd be afraid of having a little accident, Right. That would be the best part of me, and I don't want that to go, know?
Now, Pete, could he have been doing that, though, as a sort of more of a sign of threat than actually intending to use it? It's kind of like he's clearly flashing it.
Of course. If that gun in the front there, I'm sure the first 2 chambers didn't have a bullet in it because you don't tuck it in the front like that. That's the first thing anybody knows. Norman could tell you about that. You don't, when you carry a weapon, you do not.
Absolutely. No, you're right. It's all for show. And I'm surprised, though, that, with that video that we saw and like the scene where you talk about where he takes the flowers and covers it and all that, if somebody knows that person, you would think they'd come forward, especially now that the reward is $200,000. That's a very, impressive reward. It's definitely getting up there. So you have to wonder what's taking them so long, or are these messages to TMZ real? They seem a little kooky and crazy, but sometimes kooky and crazy is also right. So who knows? Pete, some really great points. Thank you very, very much. Let's go to Max in Manhattan on line 4. Go ahead, Max. Your thoughts tonight.
Rita, thank you for taking my call. One thing that wasn't covered here is that you have a lot of actresses and performers, Mexican actresses and performers that have been kidnapped. And once the ransom was paid, they were returned. But you could speak to these, Trump or the other Guthrie could speak concerning this subject. For example, there was a guy, one actor, comedian. His name was Derbez, beginning Derbez. They could always interview him and ask him what he thought. These Mexican actors and actresses know the ins and outs of this because it has happened to them before.
Now, do you believe that's an interesting avenue? Do you believe that she's in Mexico? I know they're looking there, but they don't know. It doesn't seem like they're sure if it's Mexico, not Mexico. They're clearly looking at it. There's no doubt about it. The question is to what degree? And we're hearing some stories that maybe even as far down as Mexico City. What do you think?
Well, when you put it that way, true. You don't know if it's that or if it's what someone else called in the other show into one of your earlier shows, claiming that it had to do with the Chileans. But if you go to this people who are surrounded by this is part of their culture, these actresses and performers, you could speak to them and they would have more of the skinny on this subject.
Yeah, and know what the pipeline is, and also what, it's a great point, because how do they do it? Because if that's how they do it, maybe it's tied and very similar to what happened here, to see if there's any commonalities. It certainly would be worth it. Max, thank you. Really interesting points. Let's go to Josephine in Ohio. Go ahead, Josephine. Line 1, your thoughts.
Oh, hi. How you doing today?
We're doing great. We're doing great. You're calling into the Rita Cosby Show. Josephine, go ahead.
Yeah. I stay up at night until after you and Dominic are done.
I'm so glad. I am so glad that we keep you awake, and it's so great to hear from you. What are you thinking?
Well, on several points. First of all, I want everybody to know that they can call the line in Washington, D.C. to talk to their congressman or to their senator or to anybody they want by calling 202-224-3121.
Right.
To express their opinion.
About what?
Especially on the ID, the ID for people to vote and that.
No, by the way, that's really good information, Josephine. You're right. That they can call Congress, and they should also speak up. I'm glad you're encouraging people to speak up and speak out, because that's extremely important. And that is the main line there for Capitol Hill. I worked in Washington a long time. I know that number well. And Josephine, I'm glad that you are tuning in. That makes me so, so happy. Let's go to George in New Jersey. Line 3, go ahead.
Hi, Rita. Love the show. Rita, I was talking about the kidnapping with the lady.
Yeah, what do you think?
Nobody mentioned anything about the picture. There was a crime about 25 years ago that they went to NASA. They enlarged the picture, and they caught them. They modified the picture, NASA space program. They went there, law enforcement. They enlarged it, and they had caught the people that did the crime.
Wow. No, so hang on. I do remember something like this, but George, refresh my memory. And how big of an area was it that NASA was able to zoom in on?
Well, if I remember, it was like 25 years or 24 years ago. The picture wasn't good enough. It wasn't modified. And they went to NASA and they got the license. It was like a little blurry. They got the license plates. They modified it. And they caught the people that did the crime.
Wow. Well, that could end up being really, really helpful and really interesting here. And what is stunning to me, George, that even the basics here, we're looking at like the street lights apparently didn't have cameras on them, which is interesting because many street lights in America in much bigger cities than, Tucson, and much smaller cities than Tucson, have cameras. And yet they didn't seem to have any cameras in this case. So they may need to go to the sky for additional help. That's actually a really interesting point. It'd be interesting to see what they have. George, thank you very, very much. Really fascinating. Everybody, we're going to continue your calls after the break. We're talking Mondani, Nancy Guthrie, Iran, and a whole bunch more. 1-800-848-9222. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from Murray, Utah, where nearly a decade ago, the Utah legislature established the state's Cold War Victory Medal that several of our nation's deserving veterans have received at big ceremonies. It is a very meaningful victory medal to those who served from the end of World War II to the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. Now, one of the most noteworthy moments at a beautiful ceremony there in Utah involved presenting the Cold War Victory Medal to 91 years old Army veteran Douglas Kimball. He was given the medal as well as a certificate of recognition for his great service during the Cold War and also a special customized quilt of valor. And how beautiful to see him recognized, and with many members of his family and friends also present. And everybody support America's military and first responder heroes. Donate just $11 a month. That's all it takes to make such a huge difference. And be sure to check out the great Tunnel to Towers Foundation. They are the best at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's continue with your calls. Tomorrow, the big Board of Peace meeting in Washington with President Trump and many world leaders trying to bring peace to Gaza. And of course, let's see what happens with Iran. Let's go to Paul in Connecticut on line 1. Go ahead, Paul. What do you think?
Hi. As far as Iran goes, I think the Ayatollah there has to go down. He's been causing too many problems in the world, like Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein. He'll be one of these leaders that has to go, first off. And then I think we should get together with the Saudis, maybe even send them like a falcon or a Black Panther from Florida. They like the exotic animals, to be more respectful than Biden. Biden was very disrespectful of this.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And by the way, who doesn't love animals? And especially, you're right, in the Middle East, they love those. I think a lot of people would be cheering the demise of the Ayatollah. And that may happen soon, Paul.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here? Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return, but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.